What do you think? Should we call it in? I am not doing this again.
Gus drinks a little too much and everybody's all up in his business.
Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Today, let's take a look at the GameStop exclusive Hasbro Star Wars The Black Series Gaming Greats, The Force Unleashed Stormtrooper Commander and Shadow Stormtrooper. Now, these aren't brand new. They are essentially the same Stormtrooper mold we've been getting for years, but in different flavors. And at this exact moment, well, okay, it hasn't come out yet, but these are also outdated because of a new mold Hasbro's giving us later in the year. On top of that, in the past year or so, they've been giving us exclusives that change up the color of the packaging from, the red that we've seen, again, for years, to colors that kind of match the release. And even that's changing later this year to a new design with pictures on the side and everything. So these feel like okay, wait, there is another wave, maybe two coming out, but this feels like an end to an era. Or maybe I just like Stormtroopers and I want to take a look at a couple I just got in the mail recently. Looking at the package, like I said, we've seen this for years, a window showing most of what we're getting. For these releases, since the Shadow Stormtrooper has that light blue highlight to it, they changed the packaging to look like that. And then the darker blue markings on the Commander. They went darker with the background, which makes this stand out. I just like how they've changed these. Blue is pretty. On the back, the same artwork from the front, a little bio, lots of warnings, don't put them in your mouth. On the other side, Stormtrooper, Shadows, the top, pitch black. On the bottom, legalese, UPCs. I'm gonna get these open, and there will be a lot of familiarity here, but they're painted different. It's almost a shame. That if I had to pick a favorite color, it would probably be, well, obviously, it'd be blue. Oh, and it's so hard to pick a favorite. Just kidding. It's this one. So let's look at this one first. Saying that, there's nothing wrong with this. I like the basic Stormtrooper design. And you add some markings and paint on top of that, oh, it makes it even better. And that's basically what this comes across as. A standard Stormtrooper armor with some war paint on top of it or some rank markings. And I love me some asymmetry. There's something visually pleasing about both sides being exactly the same, but for me, it draws my eye when this is just painted on one side. Or down here at the legs, it's fairly clean on the left. You get to the right, it's got all this beautiful markings on it. The torso, the arms, they do a good job of bringing across some symmetry, but there, oh yeah, that's awesome. It's the same Stormtrooper sculpt we've looked at for years. It's fairly accurate. You get to the helmet and you can see some differences. It looks off. It may be wide or, well, actually, I don't know. It may need to be more narrow about here and then a little wider here, or stay here, narrow here. I'm just trying to say there's something off about it. Maybe it's the eyes. I don't know. But if you asked anybody else in the world that's not just nitpicking over a sculpt for a Stormtrooper helmet, they'd go, oh, that's a Star Wars Stormtrooper. No denying it. All the blue has some wear and tear to it. It's been on there for a while. It's been through some battles. And that's ramped up a little bit more by having some battle damage too. It looks like the Trooper has attempted to clean it up a little bit, but once you get to a certain point and a white armor, you can't keep that clean all the time. That also helps in the paint application department because of the roughness. You're basically looking at it as a messed up paint job. Have the holster hanging off, it's a rubbery material. And as much as I like this, I think this wins it for me. There's just something about a Shadow Trooper that rings my bell. The dark colors, the blackness, the metallic, and with this version, there's also this light blue punched in places. Well, I say punched in, some parts are actually cast in a translucent light blue material, so you can see light through it. The lower torso is definitely in that material, the upper not so much. The shoulder pads aren't, but then the arms are down to the hand that are cast in a black material. The legs, you can't tell until you get to about the knee. The lower leg, you can see some translucency at the top of the arm piece and then more down towards the ankle, but then the foot goes back to black plastic. And you would think it'd be a more stark contrast between those two materials, but they did a good job of transitioning the paint to look like it's fading into a translucent look. Especially here, this paint, it matches fantastically to the crotch piece and up to the upper armor. Okay, I will admit, between these two parts, it's just black plastic, translucent plastic. But on the limbs, it's kind of a fade in and out, like he's going into stealth mode or something. I've played this game, but I don't really remember how these guys work. But then the shoulder pads, black plastic, have the light blue painted on, and that's the same for the eyes and the markings on the helmet. Oh, and then down the back of the arms too. It's a cool effect, like they're lit up kinda. But it's a shame those elbow pins are light blue plastic. It just stands out too much against the blackness, and really the translucent blue of the arm. And I keep saying black, but it's more of a sparkly gunmetal look. Or it is black, and then they've oversprayed it with a silver, because you get up to the head and you can really see a heavy dose of that silver paint. So it hits hard here. It kind of showers, it transitions down, and then goes to the blackness of the legs, which overall causes a beautiful effect. Your eye is drawn to the very light blue parts, like the eyes, the shoulder pads back here, but then your mind wonders what the hell's going on with the translucent plastic and everything else. Now, like I've said, this is straight reuse from that very first Stormtrooper we got years and years ago, and then several times after that. And I don't notice a lot of difference in anything except the shoulder pads. And it's not really a sculpt difference, it's where they glued it onto the shoulder itself. On the original Stormtrooper, there's a gap right here, and it comes down over the arm. It never gave a lot of range, and that was one of the downfalls. I think in more recent figures, they have a softer shoulder pad, and it's glued at the bottom. That way it flexes up and goes up over the shoulder. These new ones, they've glued higher up, and it gets even more in the way. It is very hard to get an arm up. It can be done, and it seems to want to ride a little bit up on top of it, but not as much. Well, actually, what the hell's going on there? Did I warp that up somehow? Let's force it, see what happens. Okay, it does. Oh, it's riding up. Apparently, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's still not as nice as more recent offerings, so maybe you have to work it in a bit. Once I have it up there, it stays. Oh, see this one flexing down. Once I stick it up again, bring it down, it's high. Okay, so it's possible, but you're definitely not getting 90. Talking way too long about shoulders. Going over articulation, again, same mold. It's going to be the same on both figures. You have a big old ball joint up in the helmet with a hinge in the neck. Looks up, you can hinge forward and then shift forward to look down. So much tilt! Swivel, once again, working the shoulder pads in. The arm comes up to there, swivels all the way around. Double elbow, there's a pin up here and there's a slight amount of movement, but there's no groove to maintain the look of the armor right there. But even still, good range for an armored character. In fact, Black Series kind of went away from this after the original Stormtrooper. It became worse, and they're working their way back to you, babe. I don't know where I'm going with that. Up and down hinge for a trigger finger, and then swivel. Ball joint mid-torso, not bad range. You're not going to crunch all the way forward, but again, a dude in armor, that's not terrible. Ball coming out to hip, again, armor. And this thing hanging down, it is rubbery. It does want to get out of the way. But it hinges forward, back, out. Not bad. There's a swivel at the thigh, beautifully hidden behind this armor plate. Double knee. Oh, not without some force, but if you crank this ankle back a little bit and push really hard, bing! Ankle hinges, whoa, way back, forward, and then forward-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, they both come with your standard Stormtrooper blaster. I've specifically kept these separate. The commander on this side, the shadow on this side, and they're exactly the same. Silver paint right there, but otherwise it's that same old sculpt, which is not a bad thing, but how many of these do we have by now? And then the same thing goes for this rifle. Again, nice sculpt, but these have a silver dry brush to bring out a bunch of that detail. I do notice on these two, the hands are a softer material so you can open them up easier, especially on this tight-ass grip they have on the left hand. You can open it up to put around the muzzle of the blaster or something. And I'd completely forgotten, it's been a while since I've actually posed up a Hasbro Stormtrooper, but you can get a kick-ass rifle holding pose with these guys. Or just a two-handed pose. But that Stormtrooper has always had a slight problem with the detents in the ankles, wanting to get center of balance standing straight up. So of course, right off the bat, he does it. And the reason I love head tilt so much, you can just kick it over slightly, and it adds so much personality to a character that doesn't even have a face.
What are you doing over there?
Hasbro Stormtroopers stand at about 5 7/8 inches tall, and at this point they come in a variety of flavors. We already looked at the standard basic Stormtrooper, but they've also done the Lava Trooper in a 4-pack. I think it was Entertainment Earth, and then Walmart exclusive, but it came out in other places too, the Shock Trooper Stormtrooper. Here it is with the Mud Trooper from Solo. Exact same sculpt, different helmet though. And then even a bootleg company got in on the fun a few years ago and offered up a knockoff Shadow Stormtrooper. I have no clue if this is still available. I haven't seen them in a while. They've also used most of the body for the Sand Trooper. It's different abs, different helmet, and then the Jump Trooper, which I think was GameStop too, different helmet, different shoulder pads. But then there's always my favorites, the tried and true Bandai Model Kit Stormtrooper, and one of my newer favorites, the Bandai SH Figuarts Stormtrooper. You can see that they're all mostly compatible. But as always, they fit into your overall display here with the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series 40th Anniversary Darth Vader, and even the Bandai SH Figuarts A New Hope Luke Skywalker. Isn't he a little short for a Stormtrooper? Oh, one thing I just noticed putting them into the final poses, the Stormtrooper Commander's trigger finger, it's, looks like a trigger finger. But the Shadow Stormtrooper, for some reason, it's a little bit flat. Not a biggie. It's going in, the actual trigger, so you'll never see it, but that is one difference. So at the end of the day, is it just more of the same with some different paint on top of it? Yeah, but it's awesome. It's a shame that these weren't held off until the new mold Stormtrooper comes out from Hasbro, but at the same time, I can see them wanting to get as much money as possible from these molds. It's been milked for the past few years and can't really blame them for getting those last drops out. But it totally works. When you look at the standard Stormtrooper, and like I talked about, you can see the offness of the helmet and some of the proportions, but you throw some gunmetal on top of it, you get some translucent blue, you put some markings on it, and your eye is drawn away from those inaccuracies. And you're left thinking, oh man, I've got some kick-ass Stormtroopers for the shelf. And I may have mentioned it, I remember playing The Force Unleashed. I don't remember these characters though, but not even knowing the game or these specific characters, I don't know. I keep coming around to, okay, it's a badass Stormtrooper. I'm in! It also doesn't hurt that I'm a sucker for Star Wars. Anything in general. I've professed my love for the Stormtrooper armor many, many times. There is just something nostalgic about that. You see them come on screen and because we have experience of what they've done, you're not really scared of them, but at the same time, if 150 of these came at you, you'd be a little bit worried. Unless you're a Jedi or a highly trained bounty hunter. But if you're a moisture farmer and you and your wife are just hanging out one day, not expecting much to happen, oh, yeah, ooh, watch out. If you enjoyed the review, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus if you're interested in seeing videos early or just in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh.